Welcome to Zero Wasted Convos. I'm your host, Aisha,
And Fatin.
and here we have a guest, Dr. Melissa. So today we're actually going to be going through things about Dr. Melissa, and we're also going to be talking about Project Earthlings and also our own experiences with it. So we hope you enjoy. So for the first segment, we're going to be talking about Dr. Melissa. So for the first question, do you have any inspiration behind why you started Project Earthlings?
Any inspiration? Well, actually, the way Project Earthling started was quite different.
Oh.
Yes. It wasn't that I came forward to start Project Earthlings. Project Earthlings kind of found me. Yeah. So the way the story goes is basically the head of the organization that runs all of these schools found me out in the wild doing my thing. Yeah. So he was on holiday and I had set up a drone project in the Maldives. And actually, it was the first drone project based at a resort to look for plastics. And it's still ongoing now. And we're still collecting data. And he said, this is cool. Could you do this in a school? I said, I guess so. Long story short, I've been in Oman now for over a year and a half, developing basically Project Earthlings. And it all came from real research in the field and people being able to get involved in it, and then children in the schools. And that's kind of how it's just grown.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned that you've been in Oman for like a year now.
Yes.
How has it been there?
It's been really nice, actually. It's a lot warmer than the UK. And also Maldives, where I do a lot of my work as well. So getting used to 50 in the summer was
50.
Yeah, it's quite warm.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's been absolutely brilliant, really incredible wildlife and scenery and habitats there, and especially underwater with the coral reefs as well.
That's a great experience to go through.
Very nice.
Me one day.
Oh yes, absolutely. Come.
Okay, so what made you choose this career? Like, what started all of this?
That's a really good question as well, actually. I knew that when I was little, I was always going to do something related to the natural world. So I was one of those kids that, knew all of the names of the dinosaurs and all the animals in the encyclopedia, and I'd learned everything by, like age 6 or something crazy. Age 5, I could, and my family always knew I was a bit odd. I ended up studying geology, actually, as my first degree, because I wanted to be a paleontologist. And I worked in paleontology after that. But I realized that I was wanting to do more to help the planet and to help living creatures, living people. Don't get me wrong, dinosaurs are great. But I felt that for me, that space of research wasn't where I wanted to stay. And since then, I've worked in project management actually all around the world in different places. I have 2 masters and a PhD. So it's been quite unusual. My journey is unusual, actually. I didn't go straight through and jumped straight into conservation. I did lots of different roles through my 20s, traveled around and worked in different projects. And then I decided, I was like, I actually do want to come back to conservation. So I put my money where my mouth was, and and it's worked.
I guess that links to how you said that Project Earthlings kind of found you.
Yes.
Because the path was very...
It was very convoluted, absolutely. It was an interesting path. I've done lots of different projects. Some you would think are completely unrelated. So when I worked in paleontology, it was at the Natural History Museum in London, for example. So I have a background in museums, and I also have run heritage projects in the north of England for coal mining. So that, and then my work in the Maldives, it's everything led to the next thing, essentially.
You've been there, done that.
Yeah, I've done it. And it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey, but I think now I really feel Project Earthlings. Imagine a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram with the 3 circles. So this is it. The one at the top is research. So I'm still a researcher. Then the next one is schools and education, and then the next one is conservation on the ground, charities, NGOs, that kind of thing. So myself and Project Earthlings, we sit in the middle. We are the link between academia, real world conservation action, and schools.
You're like the missing piece puzzle.
Wow. The piece that we didn't know we needed, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am now.
Okay, so with all this journey, with all the things that you've gone through, what drives you to be like really motivated to do what you do?
What motivates me? I can't think of doing anything else.
Oh,
I think it's to do with my personality in a way. And I've tried to do sort of more corporate things, or if there's been more corporate elements in my work, I personally didn't find them as inspiring, and it didn't drive me. So I didn't get up in the morning and think, oh, yay, I've got to do that corporate thing. Not for me. Whereas now I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking I'm going to work really hard to make a difference in conservation and in the lives of children in all these different schools, and combine the two somehow. Heaven.
I feel like that's a really huge thing to be a part of, and a lot of people wish they were a part of it.
Well, come. once we're established, we want to roll it out to lots of other people, but baby
really
steps.
So to start off with, for us, because we've gone through a lot of things to get us to where we are now.
Absolutely.
So originally, the way the podcast was started, it started with me innocently going to a club where Miss Ishmael was in. So then I was the only one there. So then I told her, Miss, what are we supposed to do? There's only me here. What are we supposed to do as a club? I mean, it's a club. There's supposed to be multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts talking about, a podcast. She starts talking about big ideas. And I'm like, wait, I kind of like that. Because I'm the type of person to like organizing huge things. Like I always like organizing events, assemblies. It's always large scale for me. So then
that's awesome to hear. Let me know when you've got a few spare minutes. We've got a lot of events to plan. Sorry.
We'll always be happy to join.
Awesome.
So basically, I went to Fatin, and our other member, Rahima, who kind of works in the background, I told them,
producer,
guys, I kind of told them, like, there's something big going on, and I kind of want you guys to be a part of it. So I kind of just shoved them in here with me.
Awesome.
So now when there are problems, I kind of just look at them like, look what brought you here.
We're all stuck here together.
Yeah, but that's the joy of it. I mean, even though some of these problems are kind of challenging, it like helped me organize it in a better way. It helped me deal with people, and it kind of just helped me manage everything that's going on. But yeah, so that's
awesome.
How we started.
That's amazing to hear, actually. And we were talking beforehand. This is the first podcast in any of our Project Earthlings schools, and I've never hosted a podcast. I've been on podcasts, but I never hosted one. So I guess my question to you will be, how do you decide what you want to talk about? What process do you go through to come to your decisions? I know it's early days, but like, what's your plan?
I mean, there's always a bunch of stuff we want to talk about. I mean, when we first started this, we were thinking, what about sustainability do we want to talk about? Because like there's advice, there's ideas, there's problems, and we decided, let's talk about everything. We can go through everything. Yeah. So now, like the process when we're planning episodes, we kind of just sit together and we brainstorm and we think, okay, so what should the next topic be about, and what do people our age like? Because I think these days people kind of appeal to things that only they find interesting. So if they hear sustainability, they're like, what is sustainability? Yes. How does it apply to me? So straight off the bat, we decided that the first episode should be about pop culture and how they relate it to sustainability. And surprisingly, a bunch of people were interested. So
well done.
Yeah.
That's really clever, actually. So, because I'm old, obviously. So if I were to do a podcast, I would be like, oh, what's the most important thing I must put in everyone's brains? But actually, no, you've come at it at a much more human and personal angle. And I think that kind of thinking is what's going to drive actual conservation behavioral change, because you're young and you know what people want to hear, and it's really important. It's so important.
I think it's the blend of like the intelligence and then the people who can connect with the younger generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully I'm doing that.
You are. Don't worry.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Can I ask you girls another question?
Yeah.
So let's take the city, for example, or even in the wider GCC. One thing lots of people ask me, and I'm going to push this question to you as well, is, are we recycling? And I ask you, what do you think is actually happening in the world of recycling in the GCC? Do you have an idea? Or what do you think might be happening? Or is it something that we could delve into?
We could delve into it because I don't think we're that educated on that topic yet.
That's really exciting. And actually, I tried to dig for a bit of information, and it's very difficult to find.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think it's not just a journey for me, it's a journey for you girls, it's a journey for everyone involved in Project Earthlings, because we want to understand, what can we actually do with our bottles? Where can we actually send them so it doesn't end up in landfill? So I'd be really excited to hear if you girls have a strategy to, maybe we can talk about that with other guests maybe one day as well.
Yeah,
what can we actually do?
I mean, here in Saudi, from what I've seen when I travel or when I go out, there's this company called the Saudi Investment Recycling Company. And originally my dad told me about it. So then I was like, oh, okay. So actually they have like these little machines or like boxes kind of where you insert these plastic bottles that you don't use. And then in return, like people who insert their bottles, they get gift cards or like points. So it basically benefits them, but it's also benefiting the environment.
Are people using them?
So far I haven't seen someone use
it. This is a thing. It's a great idea though.
Yeah.
It's a really good idea.
I think there's just not enough media coverage about it, because when I first saw it, I was like, what is that? And then you have to kind of go up to it and then read all the text on it, and then you finally know what's going on. But I feel like you just need to talk about it more openly in public.
That's really interesting. So even though they've tried to do something which is really cool, and I've seen it in other countries, like a deposit scheme, the communication method that they've used might not be that effective. And I think that's really important in conservation. And I rack my head and my brains around these things all the time. How do you communicate these things to people? And one of the things I'm opening the door to within Project Earthlings is conservation psychology. And it's people think going out and saving a turtle or measuring an elephant. No. Conservation can be very much done from your sofa, your sitting room, your laptop. There's so much you can do, just desk-based. And obviously being in a city, people automatically think, oh, there's nothing we can do. There's so much we can do. There is so much we can do. So I'm excited for it.
And that's kind of why we wanted to talk about everything.
Yes.
We believe that there's always something to talk about with sustainability, especially if you want to relate it to the younger generation. Because like, especially with like fast fashion or...
Oh gosh, yes. No, absolutely.
Second fast fashion is mentioned. But there's a lot to relate to them. And I feel like our podcast is like the starting point to bringing awareness about it.
Exactly. I can't wait to hear more.
So in segment 2, we're going to be talking a more general topic, Project Earthlings. We're going to talk about our experiences, challenges, and future plans even.
Perfect.
Okay, so to start off, like, you were in the Project Earthlings and everything. So basically, the first question I want to ask is, what's your experience with Project Earthlings and like the challenges you face?
Well, my experience is, so I lead Project Earthlings, and it's over 5 schools in 3 countries in the Middle East. And I have champions on the ground doing the good work, and I have amazing students like you who are engaging in ways that are beyond my wildest dreams. So I'm really happy about that. In terms of the logistics and the challenges around something like that, if we remember back, I mentioned that Venn diagram of research and academia and then schools and then trying to be a one-person charity, right? Although our team is expanding, which is great. The challenges for me, the biggest one was the core of what Project Earthlings is: research and conservation. Now, when you set up a project in a country, normally you have been based in that country for a while and you have a very big network. And
you're familiar with
You're familiar. I arrived in Oman like a year and a half ago, and the amount of groundwork that I've had to do, network building, partnerships, stakeholders, understanding what conservation has been happening, where there are gaps, where there are places that Project Earthlings can really insert themselves and grow something meaningful. That takes time and effort. It takes a really long time, simply because people also need to understand what Project Earthlings is.
Yeah.
It's totally new. This doesn't exist, as we know, in any other school. So even just trying to communicate what it is and what I do.
You're kind of starting from the start.
I'm starting from before the start. But I think that the project and the program has grown really well and successfully. So in Oman, we've been leading on the first working group for coral research. So in Oman, there's no like centralized hub of researchers for corals. There are little disparate bits and no ongoing continuous research. And the data sets are, they could be better, basically, because it costs money and it takes time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bring everybody together using, you know, the power of critical mass so that we can actually use our skills together, look at our timelines, work together for the greater good, and apply for funding. So I already work with Sultan Qaboos University now, which is fantastic, with their biology department. And 2 of the projects I'm working with them, they got funded.
Wow.
So already Project Earthlings and sort of the drone work that I did for my PhD and stuff, it's starting to grow roots, which is really, really, it takes, you've got to be brave.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing I would say to anyone wanting to do something similar is you need to first know what you know, so be secure in your own sort of research and stuff, and then put forward ideas. And you know, people might think I'm crazy. They're like, who is this lady? But actually it's starting, and the plastics research in Oman is pushing forward. So Down House in Muscat, they'll be starting some elements of the plastics research, and so will you guys actually. There's online stuff as well with the drone work. There's a lot happening.
So it seems very accomplishing through everything that you've been through.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And sometimes there are days when you're thinking, it's not enough, I'm not doing enough. And, you know, my boss is like, it's okay, you're doing more than enough, it's fine. But I always want to do more. So that there's the personal challenge, and then there's the like actual real world challenges of setting things up. But I've learned to not stress out as much and just to take each day little bit, and do what we are setting up really well. Focus on, you know, the output for that.
You kind of answered my next question.
Oh,
but I was going to ask, how do you basically face the challenge? Like, how do you push through?
Sleep. Good sleep. Good sleep is so important. And I'm now being better with my work-life balance, and that can apply for pupils and students as well. So when you do a PhD, maybe one of you or both of you might, who knows, but it's intense. It's intense and it's relentless. I'd even say sometimes that the master's I did before was even worse. It was even harder because it's a shorter space of time. And finding time for yourself. And I know that sounds really cliche and everyone says that now, but actually learning how to do that is so important. So important. So like even today, I've been working all day. And when I get back to where I'm staying, I'm going to take an hour. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play video games. I'm going to take that time and I'm going to play video games for an hour. That's my hour. And then the rest of the evening, I might do emails, do some documentation. Fine. But that 1 hour, that's for me and my mage in the world of Warcraft. So definitely, try and just try. It's hard, but try.
Yeah, I think it's like a really important thing to remember about work-life balance, especially for us because we're IG students. We're trying to balance the exams, the studying.
It's so hard. You guys have so much to do. Like honestly, when you get to uni, you'll be like, oh wow, it's so much easier.
It's freedom.
It's true though. You'll feel like you have more time. But you're absolutely right. That work-life balance.
Okay, so now we're just gonna talk about our own experience with Project Earthlings, and I'm gonna let Aisha talk first since she had way more experience in it than I did.
Okay, so for me, it was a lot of stuff. Like there was a lot of life lessons. There was a lot of things that I had learned, but then there was also some stuff where I kind of just questioned, why am I doing this again?
I say that every day. I'm joking.
So from last year, you know, I joined Project Earthlings. It was mainly because Miss Fazal, she basically asked us, who wants to join Project Earthlings? And I was like, what is Project Earthlings?
See?
Yeah. what does it do? What's going on? And she kind of explained everything to us. And then I was like, okay, interested. So then she compiled a whole group of people from different years, and we were all kind of involved. And then I was kind of like her side woman, you know?
I love it.
Any plans that she had, any announcements she would have to make, any planning that she would have to make, just go straight to me.
She told me, no, she'd say, my girls are amazing. I was like, where'd you find these girls? Sound amazing.
But yeah, so a lot of my challenges came from, you know, being a year 10 student and trying to figure out how to balance a project that's new to me, because I was wondering, how am I supposed to handle a project that's for this entire school? How am I supposed to help people at the same time? How am I contributing to the world? So that was kind of the question that ran through my head every day. I was like, how am I supposed to do this?
There's no guidebook. Project Earthlings is totally new.
And I
There's
think that's
no
the best
guidebook.
part.
Yeah.
So basically that was like one of my challenges and my experience, but it was a really like interesting thing to go through, because throughout all of that I got to communicate with a lot of people that were older than me, younger than me, and it felt kind of ego boosting kind of.
I have power.
Yeah, I'm telling someone that's 2 years older than me what to do, and I felt so like, okay, like that's kind of amazing to me. But
it's confidence building. It's, and I'm so happy to hear that, honestly, because that's going to stay with you now.
Yeah, and then it's the fact that, you know, I kind of made new friends, and then, you know, for example, with this podcast, it strengthened my friendship with Fatin and, you know, our other member Rahima, because it got to give me a perspective of our friendship where it's like kind of work induced. And then we got to balance stuff like, okay, due dates, am I supposed to be strict with them, or do I just say it's fine, you can rest for a week?
Let it slide.
But yeah,
no, absolutely. So how would you say the projects from last year compared to the projects for this year? Because obviously it's changed with new champions. So the champions are the members of staff helping to funnel all the different things, and obviously we have a new head in the school as well. So what did you do last year, and what have you been doing this year?
So last year, I guess we were more focused on projects and projects and projects. So there were vertical gardens, there was like this thrift bookshelf, there was a lot of stuff that happened last year, and it was kind of interesting to see it all happen. So I'd say last year it was mostly just project based, meaning we kind of just involved the school that way. But this year it's more like we're kind of mainstreaming, as in like we're letting people be more involved on a regular basis. So we've been doing assemblies about sustainability, and we're going to talk about a bag composition like later on. But yes, so we've been kind of involving it, you know, on like the main side. So instead of, you know, information overload or giving people work to do, it's more like educating them about it instead.
So basically, my experience with the Project Earthlings, like Aisha said earlier, I was kind of like dragged into this. Not gonna lie, I was kind of dragged into it. But honestly, my experience has been like amazing so far. When I first joined, that's when they started talking about the podcast, and like I'm kind of the person to be like wanting to speak more and stuff like that. So like I already volunteered. I was like, I'm gonna be the host. I'm gonna do this.
Amazing.
But yeah, the projects we've done so far, which we'll be talking about later. It's been amazing because we got to see everybody in the school contribute to it, and they were like so on and keen into doing.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, that's basically it for my experience, because like besides that, we also have been researching for 2 more episodes actually. Yeah, we have 2 more episodes coming up soon.
Oh, amazing. Are you allowed to tell us what they're going to be about, or are we going to keep it a secret for a bit longer?
Okay.
Keep it a secret. Awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of planning going on, there's a lot of, you know, managing and stuff. So it's a really interesting experience. I can't lie at all. Like starting a podcast to begin with, it's just, whoa, I never thought I'd be here.
I know, I'm just so impressed. Like when you sent through the pre-documents, I was like, this is really professional. I was like, oh, that took some time. That's really, really good.
So with this whole thing, you know, we talked about challenges, we talked about where we started from. So what about future plans?
Everyone's been waiting.
Future plans. I've had some really exciting conversations just today.
Oh,
seriously cool conversations. I won't say too much because it's going to take a lot of planning and a lot of excitement, but essentially, for Downhouse Riyadh, we are looking at, in terms of the project-based work for Project Earthlings, conservation technology. We're going down the AI route, we're going down the machine learning and that engineering interface with conservation. So that's actually where I sit. I guess you could say in the world of, someone said to you, what are you, Melissa? So my PhD is in drone engineering, but I did it in conjunction with London Zoo, marine sciences, bigger kind of marine ecology and engineering. And I'm not unique, there are other people who have done that, but not necessarily drones at the time when I was doing it, but now there are more. It's becoming, and it's great, it's becoming more popular. I'm so excited by it. Or people who work to do underwater robotics for conservation. So where I was at Loughborough University, my lab specialized in hydrophones. And my supervisor was a physicist and an engineer. So, and I'd never worked on that level with a physicist or an engineer before. I'd come kind of from project management and conservation ecology background. So really pushing that side of conservation because it's cutting edge. And not only will the students learn skills about conservation and about how we use it, but these are transposable. So even if you participate in these projects and you do some coding or some AI algorithm building, you don't have to do that in conservation. You can take that and do any job. There are so many jobs where you can take these skills too. So that's a really exciting part of it for me. But definitely, the Internet of Things, IoT, AI, machine learning. I'm a computer vision girl. But yeah, anything technology based for conservation, watch this space.
I feel like it's a really important thing to involve, especially with like AI developing every day. So it's a very important thing.
Yeah, so we've had this bag competition. I think it started about like 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's when we first started talking about it.
Yeah.
So then we had like an assembly or something about the competition, how it's going to be handled, who's going to get chosen, and stuff like that. And like basically everyone was so in on it. Like this, if you were there, everyone was so like, they had so many designs. I wish we had them to show you.
I forgot to bring it.
Yeah.
Ishmael needs to send them to me. Miss.
But basically, we had so much. Everyone was like saying like, "Oh, save the planet" or something like that. And I think that's the one who actually won the bag competition, right?
I don't remember. All I remember is this huge sunflower in the middle of a bag, and then it was talking about saving the planet at the back, I think. Yeah. And then I found that really cool because
reduce, recycle.
Refuse. That's a new one to add to that. Refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. So you refuse it in the first place.
Oh.
Yeah.
Actually, really
have that one for free. But no, I'd love to see the designs actually.
Yeah, we can show it.
Yeah, because what was interesting to us is that we thought that like the older years would be more interested, but actually it was like the year 6s, year 5s.
That's fascinating.
And we were like, whoa, like they actually know about this type of stuff. And that was such a big thing to us because that means that they're actually getting educated about this from I don't know what source, but they got it from somewhere.
That's very interesting, actually, from a conservation research perspective as well. So not only are you running competitions which are engaging, you're collecting data. Inadvertently, you are. No, absolutely. And I look forward to seeing, I don't know if Miss will be able to write something up about it, but girls, if you can help on that, if we could have just a few graphs, no worries. But it would be amazing to see the results, but like the output from who did what and how, that alone is very interesting. Well done.
Everyone was really motivated to create designs. And it wasn't just like the main thing, which is an earth. Like they actually incorporated different stuff about it. And we found that so interesting because they're younger years and we didn't expect that from them. So receiving most of the submissions.
There was so many. Like I remember I had papers of it and then they sent it to me online. And then they actually drew it on bags.
Do you remember last year, Downhouse Riyadh hosted the COP21 symposium? Do you think maybe that had something to do with it?
I think so.
Because everyone was involved in that, weren't they? Maybe they remember. So I guess the trick is consistency and the message to be communicated, not just once. And I think you girls have clocked onto that. It needs to be consistent. So the message really like sticks into the minds of the kids, and it seems to be, which is awesome.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see all of that. We were so shocked. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode and learned a lot of new stuff, especially about Dr. Melissa and also about us. We hope you learned new things about Project Earthlings and also found some interest in it, so then you can hopefully join us with our journey. And yeah, thank you for coming.
And thank you so much, girls, for inviting me as well.
It was a pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to see how the podcast develops.
Thank you.
Cool.